Previously on The Business.
All right, over the past 24 hours, in fact, for the past few weeks, actually, there's been massive talk about what's going on in the motor industry. And this morning, I think BMW have been in the spotlight more than any other car manufacturer that I've heard of in the last little while. We're very appreciative to have Guy Kilfoil join us today, spokesperson for BMW South Africa. How are you, Guy? Long time no speak.
Hi, Ian. It's been a very long time that you and I haven't spoken, for sure.
Indeed. Thank you so much for joining us today. I've heard you on more than one FM platform before we came on here this morning. I know that you've been incredibly busy, so thank you for your time. Let's get stuck straight into to what's happened. There's a lot of finger pointing and a lot of facts which I guess you're kind of shaking your head at, because a lot of people are saying that BMW's pulling out of South Africa. They've gone back on their deal. There's a lot of blackmail. There's underhand. There's all sorts of stuff going on, Guy. Can I ask you, please, to just explain to us what has happened over the past 48 hours when BMW came out with that statement?
Well, actually, Ian, we made the statement on Monday last week. It's actually only just blown up in the media over the last few days after NUMSA's comments about blackmail. But nonetheless, let me clarify a few things. One, we're definitely not pulling out of South Africa. We have a plant here. We've had a plant here for 40 years. We built a BMW 3 Series sedan for export markets around the world. We're responsible for 25% of the global supply of those cars for the BMW Group, so we're a very important partner to the international headquarters. We produce cars in 3 shifts, 24 hours a day around the clock, and our big export markets are the USA, Japan, Canada, and most of Asia. So we're not going anywhere. No jobs are going to be lost. There is absolutely no threat to our existing investment in South Africa. However, what we have said is we've just come out of a period of 2 months of strike action. 2 separate strikes, both of which affected our industry directly. We lost 13,000 units of production out of those 2 strikes. That's 16% of our annual production volume, which is a massive chunk of our production volume. 80% of that volume was destined for export markets around the world. And what we've said is, based on the current labor environment, any future expansion of the plant, or any potential future of the expansion of the plant, has been put on hold until this can be resolved. What do we mean by that? Well, ultimately, we had been in the process of putting a business case together to produce a second model at our plant in Roslyn, alongside the BMW 3 Series sedan. The decision as to which market that model would have been allocated to would have been made in the coming months, and we had a very favorable business case on the table. But the BMW Group said that it's not willing to jeopardize the production of that vehicle, and took South Africa's bid off the table. And we will no longer be able to be in part of the decision-making process for where that car goes.
I mean, I understand that BMW has a business to run. You've got shareholders that you're accountable to. You've got head office in Germany that you're accountable to. And you are pumping a load of money into South Africa when it comes to jobs and opportunities to create employment, etc. How is this all kind of being looked at from an overseas point of view? Does Germany understand the labor issues? I read an article from one of the newspapers this morning saying that, customers who are in Argentina or in the States or wherever those cars might go, they don't care about labor issues in South Africa. They just want their BMW 3 Series.
Yes, for sure. We're a global player now that we export to so many places, and certainly customers in markets around the world don't really care about unique situations in South Africa. Does our parent company have an understanding as to the labor environment in South Africa? Absolutely. We've been invested here for 40 years. We've seen all the ups and all the downs the industry has had to show. So certainly we understand that South Africa is somewhat unique as a labor environment. However, the way that labor unrest has changed in recent times has been dramatic. And in no first world market, and in no market which is so dependent on the rest of the world, or rather that the rest of the world depends on so much, is a 2-month strike where you lose 16% of your volume normal. And under those circumstances, it would be fairly irresponsible for BMW as a global entity competing to remain the most successful premium car brand in the world, to add more responsibility to a plant which is at this point in time unable to deliver on what it's supposed to deliver on.
Okay, I've got a couple of quick-fire questions which I think will clarify a lot of things in my head. First of all, how many people does the Roslyn BMW plant employ? How many lives does it affect?
Overall, we employ 3,500 people at BMW South Africa, of which 2,350 more or less are directly involved in the production of cars at the factory. We also then have about 3,500 people within our dealer network and around 15,000 people at our first-tier suppliers. So people directly making a living out of BMW, you could say, is close to 25,000 people.
If you had gone ahead, and I want to get to this because this is an important issue about the second model of BMW that's not now not going to happen. But if you had gone ahead, how many more jobs would have been created, Guy?
Well, I think what we have to clarify first is if we had remained on the table, we stood a chance of going ahead. We haven't actually lost anything other than the opportunity to bid. But nonetheless, if we had managed to win this contract, and obviously you need a ticket in the game in order to be in it,
Sure.
to win the contract in the first place, we certainly would have needed to add a substantial number of jobs because we already run at full capacity at the plant. Given our current situation at the plant, there is absolutely no way we can make up the 13,000 units of lost volume because there are only 24 hours in a day and we already produce 24 hours a day, which means we would have had to have added at least one or two new shifts, and a shift for a production plant the size of BMW South Africa is around 700 people.
Guy,
excluding what we would have had to add at the suppliers, of course.
I just wanted to ask, is the labor unrest the only factors that would have potentially lost us the bid or has potentially lost us the bid?
Yes, for sure. You know, we've operated in this environment for a long time. We added a third production shift as early as November last year, which means that the fundamentals for doing business in South Africa are sound and the business case makes sense. However, if you're going to make a company like BMW, a global entity, even more reliant on South Africa, you need even more stability in the plant. So currently, we're responsible for 25% of BMW 3 Series demand worldwide. That means two other plants in the world take care of the other 75%. The reliance on South Africa is high, but it's not astronomically high. If you had to add another plant to this equation, our responsibility within the group grows exponentially. And within that exponential growth of responsibility, you need an exponential growth in labor stability.
Yeah. I'd like to know, now that the bid is off the table, is there any chance, after talks with government, which they've come out and said that they are going to have, is there any chance that this bid may reappear? We might get a chance to get back on the table?
Ian, to be honest, I don't think that we would make it in time for this specific model. But you must remember that the car industry is an ever-moving thing. Just as an example, BMW will in the next 2 years launch 25 new models, 10 of which will be completely new. So it's a very dynamic industry, and things are always changing. We're always adding new models to the mix because we're always looking for new niches and new customers. And what I think that this media uproar has done is it's allowed us to raise the flag about potential threats to our industry, and give us enough opportunity before the next bargaining forum to take the necessary steps, along with government and along with labor, to put in place circumstances or frameworks which could prevent decisions like this from happening in future. And certainly, if we can do that, there's absolutely no reason why we would not be on the decision-making table for any future decisions that come our way.
NUMSA is now happy. The strike is over. Are things settled?
You broke up just at
Sorry,
that point, so I didn't quite hear the end of the question.
I said NUMSA is now happy. The strike is over. Is everything settled?
You must remember that the strike was not in our industry. It was in our supplier industry.
Right.
So we're not very close to the absolute negotiations. So we are certainly glad that the strike is over. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as the strike being over today and everything being back to normal tomorrow. Because it was in our component industry, we need to fill up all of our parts buffers. So our suppliers will be working very hard over the next coming days to make sure we have enough parts to produce in a 24-hour-a-day operation. We only produced a single shift yesterday, which means we lost another 230 cars yesterday. We're only producing a single shift today, which means we lost another 230 cars today. We should be able to move to a two-shift operation tomorrow, which means we'll lose a further 115 cars. And then by Thursday, we're hoping to be back up to full production and producing 24 hours a day. So there is still some impact for us this week, but certainly from the end of the week onwards, things should be back to normal.
Do you think that with the delayed obviously production and stuff like that, it's going to affect the South Africans' kind of thought towards the BMW brand and them not wanting to buy the actual BMs anymore?
Yeah, I mean, this is damage control for you, isn't it, Guy?
Well, I mean, I think it would be foolish for anybody to look at the decision that's been taken as an unpatriotic one. It's as a corporate citizen, we've raised a flag about an issue that can still be resolved. At the end of the day, we didn't lose anything more than an opportunity. By raising a flag now, we have the opportunity to rectify things so that by the time the next decision comes along, we're in a position to not only rectify and salvage these opportunities, but perhaps win other contracts. I don't think that's an unpatriotic thing at all. I think that's certainly something that can be good for industry, and certainly it's the light in which we're viewing it. If a customer wants to make that decision, it's a very sad decision indeed, but if you ask me whether losing one customer or 90,000 cars a year, which I export to the rest of the world, which I'd prefer, I could certainly make a very easy decision right now.
Guy, on a lighter note, and to wrap up, because unfortunately we are out of time, I must just say that Kriya and I both picked up on it yesterday, and whoever was placing the ads were very clever. But
Brilliant.
But every time we searched for a story about BMW and the strike and it being over, etc., very sneakily in the bottom of our screens on several websites, BMW ads popped up. Either that's clever ad serving, or you guys were really on top of your game yesterday.
I think there's a bit of both at play, but certainly you need to remember that the Johannesburg International Motor Show is just a week away.
Yeah.
And we would normally be doing lots of ad serving to try and attract people to our stand at the Joburg Motor Show. So certainly it's probably just a very happy coincidence.
Guy, thank you for your time. It is really a pleasure to talk to you again. Thanks for the insight into the way it's all working now. And may things get back to normal and you guys start to make more cars and hopefully in the future for BMW we can pick up another one of those contracts and maybe create some more jobs.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ian. Thanks, Kriya. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Guy.
The Business. Weekdays 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on bulls.co.za. Brought to you by FNB Business Banking.